Discover solutions to issues that affect your family and professional life with practical information to help you get past life's adversities. Take a proactive approach to power up your life with Rosalie's expert resources.
At a recent South Florida Women Business Leader Conference, Dr. Bernadette Russell, provost at Palm Beach State College, was the moderator of a panel of women business leaders who all shared their personal journey to business success. Jackie Keeley of Corporate and Continuing Education at Palm Beach State College opened up the 4th annual Women's Entrepreneur Network.
Today, as our 4th annual anniversary, we're honoring excellent women from the community, executives, leaders, entrepreneurs. They're going to share with us today the road that they traveled and the ecosystem that they encountered as they were developing their leadership and entrepreneur skills.
Dr. Bernadette Russell defined the integral parts of an ecosystem for women business leaders.
Knowledge, inclusion of women, culture in the environment, family environment, business practices, legal and financial infrastructure, innovation, public policy environment, community resources like SBDC, and other social economic opportunities. Each must exist in the environment to create an ecosystem that supports entrepreneurship and leadership.
Melanie Dickinson is the president and publisher of the South Florida Business Journal.
With all the different jobs I've had, a lot of it started in sales. And I did the Miami Herald, Advent Direct Mail. I kept looking for where I fit. That was a lot of, but I was trying to figure out what I loved, what I was passionate, what was exciting. I always knew journalism and news was where my excitement was. I ended up, throughout my career, I ended up at TV Guide at one point, and I thought that was the pinnacle at the time. TV Guide was actually a great brand then. And I remember that I thought the National Arena, I'm out of New York, all this stuff, and I thought that was it, I've made it. And that was probably the most important part of my career, where I realized that I really wasn't fulfilled. My husband couldn't understand why I just wasn't excited, but he supported me, part of my ecosystem. And he supported that I wanted to come back to American City Business Journals because it had everything I wanted. Although it didn't have all these fabulous perks and all these things I just mentioned at TV Guide, it had the ability to grow. It had the ability to be myself. And as a woman in business, there were women that rose the ranks based on performance, based on passion, based on wanting to be the best at what we do.
Roxana Trinka is the president and CEO of Baseline Engineering and Land Surveying.
I am a girl in a boy's business. So if you think about it, my ecosystem isn't just women, it's all of the mentors that I have across the board and have had. When I decided in 1992, this was after Hurricane Andrew hit, that I was driving 60 miles one way to go to work. I was making a ton of money, which was great. I loved what I did, that was great. But my daughter Chelsea was going to be starting high school that year. And I came home one day and I said, Bill, Chelsea is going to be starting her freshman year, and I'm not spending nearly enough time with her, and this just isn't worth it. And he looked at me and said, okay. He said, you realize that what you're doing for this company in Dade County, you can do on your own. I said, you think so? He said, I know so, why not? So I started Baseline Engineering and Land Surveying in March of 1993. We had a 600 square foot office. I had one licensed surveyor, one licensed engineer, one draftsman, and me.
Mary Wong is the president of the Office Depot Foundation, a charitable organization where she grew her reputation of giving.
When I was in high school, I developed epilepsy, and I had about 50 seizures in a day. And I too was told you'll never go to college, you'll have to go to an institution, and you'll never be normal. And well, that part probably is right, but I had an affinity to doing math and science was very hard for me. Any of those pieces were very hard because of the seizures. But I was very good in the arts and the literatures and those pieces. But it was finding out that you need to do what you love. And you guys, I didn't find that part truly until I was, until I was 30, 40 years old and doing this, finding that job.
There is a myriad of knowledge not found in books that can be found from women's mentoring groups.
I truly believe that there is no failure if you don't want to fail. I truly believe that if you put your mind to it, you can make those things happen. The unfortunate part is that in corporate culture today, there are the way that it looks on the outside and then the way that it works on the inside. And yes, you have to have that political navigation. I'm not going to lie to you, there are this political savvy that you have to build up to be able to work it through, but that's part of business. That's part of being able to. Do they teach that 101? No, you have to learn it, and that's where mentors come in.
Social responsibility demonstrated by big and small companies supports a strong community interaction to address its needs.
Social responsibility has been used by many corporations to increase their visibility and their ability to communicate their mission to the community, giving back to the community.
Melanie shares the mentoring program of a large conglomerate of business journals who believe in the power of mentoring.
I think it's a very important thing for companies to give back to their communities and people, of course, but in a company perspective, the reason we ask this in all applications and really in anything we look at, we always look at the give back to the community, because with that, that's what helps make your community thrive. And thriving communities what are going to make us more successful, and we're all about growing and building, and that's a big part of it.
Dr. Bernadette Russell and her panel of women business leaders shared how perseverance ensured their career path allowed them to do what they love.
Figure out what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what you do best and what you can do best, and what's best for you, and then make sure you live true to it.
One of my favorite expressions is women are like tea bags. You never know how strong they are until you put them into hot water.
The state of women-owned businesses in the U.S. confirms there's almost 9.1 million women-owned businesses. These businesses generate over $1.4 trillion in revenues, and they employ over 7.8 million workers. As for this women-owned business, I do what I love. Small businesses continue to fuel America's jobs and innovations. Although today's entrepreneurs are more optimistic about the economy and growth, business owners continue to struggle to find the right resources and guidance to pave their path to success. Here to discuss the trends, challenges, and solutions for today's entrepreneurs are business management expert, columnist, author, and business owner Jean Marks, and Carrie Goman, the head of Capital One Small Business Banking. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Thanks for having us here.
Please share the results of the Capital One Small Business Confidence Score, and also tell us why Optimism is finally at pre-recession levels.
Well, Rosalie, let me start by saying this is National Small Business Week. So we're here to really honor the 28 million small business owners across America who've been such a critical part of the economic recovery that we've all experienced. And one of the things that we've done in Capital One to support business owners is to really make sure that we understand their issues and are really advocating for them. So over the last 6 years, we have been tracking how business owners are feeling, what's keeping them up at night, what they're worried about. And one of the most important parts of our analysis is something called the Small Business Confidence Score. This is actually an index. It's made up of a couple things around small business outlook, the actual sales results of small business owners are experiencing, and their hiring trends. Now, this is so important because if you're looking to start a small business or expand, you want to make sure that the business conditions are right, and who better to learn it from than other small business owners. So what we've seen in our Small small business confidence score is a steady improvement since the recession. So we were negative during the recession. We just got our results back this past quarter, and they are the highest we've seen since the recession, close to pre-recessionary levels, despite a slow start to the year. So this is really good news for business owners as they begin to shift from thinking about stabilizing and recovering to really growing their business.
Which kind of surprised me, Rosalie. I mean, maybe you see the same thing yourself as a business owner. I mean, right? You're out there looking for work. Right now, the economy is still pretty slow. It was a sluggish first quarter, and yet this Capital One survey comes out and says that business owners are confident and optimistic. So I think that's a really good sign for 2015.
But Carrie, as a small woman business leader, you do realize women-owned businesses struggled in recent years.
Well, Rosalie, look, I'm pretty passionate as a woman myself about women small business owners, and it's actually really exciting because women small business owners are actually more optimistic than their male counterparts by about 10 percentage points, which is exciting because they're optimistic because they believe their businesses are performing better now than they were 6 months ago, even more so than their male counterparts. As you know, women-owned small businesses still only represent around a third of small businesses, but they're growing quickly at about 1.5 times the national average. One of the most important things that we can do to support women is really to make sure that we're continuing to bring resources to bear and that women are taking advantage of mentors and support networks. One of the things that I'd encourage women to check out is a new community called businessadvising.org, which brings together mentors with small business owners and creates a free resource for business owners.
Jean, we have more technology tools to grow our business today than we had in the past, correct?
That is correct. But one of the things that people don't realize about technology, Rose, is that with all the great technology that's out there, you still have to use it the right way.
I'd add, one of the important resources if you want to learn about the latest technology is sparkbusinessiq.com, which keeps business owners up to date on the latest trends and the latest tools.
Thank you, Carrie and Jean, for sharing some small business resources to help business owners be more competitive and technologically on top of their industry.
Thanks, Rosalie.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Small businesses are more optimistic about the economy than they have been in the past 3 years. According to a new report by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, the Chase Business Leaders Outlook, now in its 5th year, surveyed 2,000 small and middle market business leaders. Here to share some of the findings from this survey is Jim Glassman, Senior Economist at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Rosalie.
Share some of the survey's concerns business owners share on a national and local level.
Well, what's interesting, the concerns are actually very encouraging because they're becoming more optimistic. Their concerns are they're having a harder time finding people with the right skills. They're having to work harder to retain workers. Very good news because it means that business leaders, because they are more optimistic, are now having to work harder to try to appeal to workers. So they're planning on increasing employment. They talk about increasing pay. Many more are offering health insurance coverage. All good news because what it tells us is that we know the economy has been recovering for 6 years, but it's really been the larger business community that's been benefiting. Now we're starting to see the benefits of a recovering economy spread to the smaller business community. It means that we've got a fair amount of momentum driving the recovery that we're watching play out.
And small businesses require more skilled workers.
Yeah, in particular, folks who are in the manufacturing businesses are finding that because of innovation in the last couple of decades, the innovation has been displacing routine work. So they need people with skills now. They don't need people just to man a position. So they're finding they've got to team up with community colleges. They've got to develop in-house training programs. They're working harder to find out how you help beef up those skills. And it's a partnership with the public sector and the business community.
So what are the top 3 challenges business owners face today?
The top challenge is revenues. They always say revenues, keeping revenues growing. That's always what drives the business. Finding people with the right skills and managing the regulatory burden. As the economy does better and they're much more optimistic, some of the regulatory issues are receding a little bit. There is a new challenge for those folks who are connected to the energy sector, and we find those more in the South. Those who are connected to what's been going on in the energy sector are finding life a little more challenging. From Texas up to North Dakota, the energy sector has been in a boom for a while, but because oil prices are down, thanks to their efforts to bring out more supplies, they're having to cut back a little bit.
Florida business growth created more than 470,000 jobs last year. How has technology transformed managing businesses to allow growth?
Well, technology allows businesses to operate more efficiently. It allows them to move operations to different locations. Where you are located is not as critical. And it's helping, in particular for Florida, there are a lot of jobs related to the financial sector that maybe can be located in Florida and are not inhibited by the distance from the New York financial centers. So technology is a very big driver for a lot of businesses, and it's also for the business, for the employing community. Technology means there are more jobs, better paying jobs out there for folks if you've got the right skills.
Thanks, Jim, for joining us this morning and putting a bright face on Florida's business outlook.
Thank you.
Need some time off from business? Are you looking for an adventure to share with your entire family? How about taking a trip to Knott's Berry Farm and experience the voyage of the Iron Reef? Here to entice your imagination to discover the unknown is Robert Decker, Corporate Vice President of Planning and Design at Cedar Fair, one of the largest regional amusement resort operators in the world. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
Where did the inspiration of the voyage to the Iron Reef begin, and why is it so important to have 4D attractions?
Well, we listen to our guests, and a lot of kids grew up gaming today with some really great storyline-based attractions, so this is what we wanted to add to the experience here. But this, for a gamer, is like video games on steroids. It's a 4D, interactive, immersive dark ride experience where we take you through an indoor theatrical experience where they get to interact and game in real time, and a lot of things can happen during that whole experience.
How much time and manpower is invested in creating a 4D ride experience?
Well, we design a lot of great things, but this one is really special because it takes a lot of detail that goes into the creativity of the content, the gaming system itself, the vehicles that take you through and trying to get everything just right. So we spent a full year on this, but for instance, one of the things that's more meticulous and takes a lot of time is the animation. And the Queen of the Kraken is the big character in this. She's the villain, and it took 6 months just to render that animation and get it just right. And even then we had a few more tweaks in the end just to get her perfect.
Are there any hidden secrets or surprises along the way during the course of this ride?
Well, it's a fully interactive dark ride, so you get to fight the creatures, but we also embedded a lot of iconic elements into the imagery as well. So when you go through, if you're a fan of the park, you'll recognize a few things that were here from the past, and I'll give away not everything, but just one that's really cool. In the first scene when you go through, if you hit the big sign that says the Roaring Twenties, people will remember that sign from the park, and we just call those the Easter eggs that every time you go through, whether you get the high point total because we keep points as we go, or whether you just go through and you find something new and interesting, you can tell your friends about it, and it just gets to be more and more fun.
So what's the story behind the steampunk influence?
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of fun themes and stuff we can do here in the park, and this one was interesting to us to create the mechanical fish. Now we can animate these things. Like there's one element like the puffer fish. When you hit it, it blows up a little bit, and then it gets a little larger, and then larger still before it ultimately blows up. And it has all these really cool gears and mechanical devices on it. So it's really kind of techy, and then it's fun as well.
So why are sound effects so vital in creating this experience?
Well, once you get into this environment and you get the full visual field, and these are big screens, so you're fully engulfed and enveloped. We wanted to make sure everything connects and really draws you into the experience. So, for instance, the sound that the freeze ray gun that we use. We went through 50 different sounds just to get it just right. But, you know, for one, you're going to hear it throughout the ride, and then we just wanted to feel like it, you know, you're really interacting with the screen and it really feels good. So from sound effects, from the gun or the environment, we just wanted to really pull everyone into the experience.
Thank you, Robert, for joining us to share how imagination and creativity can lead to an entertainment discovery.
Thank you.
Keeping our kids safe should be our top priority. U.S. kids are safer than they have been in the last 25 years, but statistics are still shocking. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 20 boys report experiencing childhood sexual abuse before the age of 18. Joining us this morning is Joan Cole-Duffel, Executive Director for the Committee for Children, to share how to protect our children and a new campaign that opens up the conversation to talk to our children to keep them safe. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning, Rosalie. Thank you for having me.
Those statistics are frightening. How are children becoming so vulnerable to perpetrators? Because they trust somebody?
Right. Well, you know, perpetrators of sexual abuse typically look for children where they are, and these are often children that are known and trusted, or who know and trust the perpetrator, as well as their parents. So their parents often know the perpetrator of abuse as well. And you know, this is something that is sometimes hard for people to wrap their heads around. A lot of times we talk about stranger danger, and yes, while that's important, it's not the most common form of sexual abuse. Most commonly, it's someone the child and the family knows and trusts.
How do parents begin the intimate conversation with their children about sexual abuse?
Well, first of all, I think we probably shouldn't think of it as an intimate conversation. It really needs to be a safety conversation, which adds a lot of simplicity and comfort for parents. If you have safety conversations with your kids on a frequent basis, I expect you do as a parent. You have safety conversations about things like crossing the street or maybe not crossing the street, using your car seat or your seat belt or your booster seat, or the importance of safety wearing a bike helmet. Well, we want you to open the conversation with children about being safe around people, the people you know, the people in your life, and our little videos that we have as part of this campaign teach parents how to have that conversation, and more importantly, how to protect their children if they think something has happened.
If 93% of juvenile sexual assault victims know their attacker, how do we communicate effectively with the child to help them be more aware of what's happening to them?
Well, we need to give them safety rules. We need to give them safety rules again, just like they've had safety rules about crossing the street. And those safety rules can be very simple. Don't keep secrets about touching. If anyone tries to touch you in the private parts of your body or asks you to touch theirs, come tell me right away. We can't expect that children are going to be able to prevent the abuse. That's burdening kids with too much responsibility. But we can teach kids how to come and tell their parent or their teacher right away if something like this is happening. And then the adults in a child's life need to learn how to respond effectively if and when they think something is happening.
Is there a special population a child abuser will target?
You know, one of the things that's really interesting about child sexual abuse is that it doesn't know social or economic boundaries or racial boundaries. Sexual abuse happens with about the same frequency across all strata of the population. And what's important about that statistic is that people often think, well, that happens somewhere else. That would never happen in my family. But in fact, sexual abuse happens in, quote unquote, the best of families. So we want to make sure that people really understand that it's a widespread problem, and it is not just in one little pocket of society.
Thank you, Joan, for creating awareness of this heartbreaking truth of child sexual abuse and your commitment to advocate through the Committee for Children.
Thank you.
A new survey of over 1,200 parents by the YMCA and the American Academy of Pediatrics reveals moms and dads feel challenged to have their kids stay smart, active, and healthy, especially during summer break. Joining us to discuss youth development programs to help bridge the gaps for kids is Dr. Matt Longjohn, National Health Officer at the YMCA USA. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
So tell us, Doctor, what was revealed in the Y's Family Health Snapshot Survey?
That survey, conducted with the American Academy of Pediatrics this year, revealed a couple of new findings. There have been studies in the past that have documented that summer is the time when kids gain the most weight and when they fall behind the most in terms of academic performance. But this year in this study, what we found was kind of the next level of detail. We found that some drivers for these outcomes are that kids are using far more technology, phones and gizmos and game consoles, etc., during the summer months than they are during the academic year. 30% more hours spent in front of screens like that. And that this is maybe the most compelling fact for me, that there's great awareness amongst parents, especially in low-income households, of just how important it is to incorporate physical activity and healthy behaviors into the choices they make on how their kids are going to spend their summer months. So we wanted to capitalize on that awareness amongst parents and launch this Hop the Gap campaign to connect them to resources they're going to need to plan a healthy summer.
All kids' well-being and academic future thrives on activities, mostly during summer months.
Mostly during summer months is where these gaps arise, but the Y is committed year-long to promoting healthy mind, body, spirit through our programs. We actually have physical activity and healthy eating standards in all our programs nationwide, and the gap that we're trying to close right now is particularly related to summer, but we're dedicated to helping families find the resources they need to help their kids.
Here in South Florida, I worked with local Ys on disability mentoring events which bridge gaps.
That's right. There are so many different gaps that Ys are addressing. Their boards and partners have assessed communities all over the place and identified a number of gaps. Ys in South Florida are taking the lead in working with older adults as well as with young kids and addressing chronic disease, healthy aging, etc. Thank you so much for the work that you've done on the disabilities.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining us this morning to create awareness of the physical and learning gaps millions of kids face each day.
Thank you.
Business mentors share their life experiences to help others find their path to do what they love to do. Parents, have that safety conversation with your child to ensure their security and close the gap on physical and learning gaps through staying active. Share with us your path to business success to do what you love to do at facebook.com/Rosalie Show or visit us at rosaliearchershow.com. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you soon.